wanted to hug her mother, to feel her warmth again, but she was only a shadow, lost in the world of the unseen. The next day, the villagers decided to visit the river. They carried kola nuts, palm wine, and a white hen, believing the goddess might have taken the child. Men, women, and children gathered by the riverbank, their voices rising in prayers and chants. They poured palm wine into the water, cracked kola nuts, and let the white hen go free, its wings flapping as it disappeared into the trees. Great Mother of the Waters, the elders cried, "If you have taken the child, we beg you, return her. If you are angry, forgive us. Do not punish us with your silence." The river rippled softly, but gave no answer. Amora, standing among them unseen, felt a strange pull in her chest, as though the water called her name. She stepped closer, her invisible feet sinking into the wet sand. For a moment, she thought she saw a figure shimmering beneath the waves, watching her with glowing eyes. But when she blinked, it was gone. She staggered back, her heart pounding. That night, strange things shook the village. Goats bleated wildly though no predator was near. Pots cracked by themselves in kitchens. Shadows flickered where no fire burned. Fear gripped the people, and mothers clutched their children close. "The missing girl's spirit has returned to torment us," they whispered. Amora roamed through the darkness, her hunger driving her to snatch bits of food from trays. Each time she took something, people screamed and fled, calling her a ghost. The more they feared, the lonelier she felt. She realized she could no longer live among them. The ring had stolen her place in her family, in her village, even in the world of the living. She wandered towards the bush, her bare feet brushing the grass, her heart heavy. She wondered if she would ever be free again, or if she was doomed to wander unseen until her last breath. Far away, deep beneath the river, the goddess stirred in her watery palace. Her hair flowed like dark waves, her eyes glowed with secrets, and her voice whispered through the currents. She had felt the ring's power shift, had seen it cling to the small child who was never meant to bear it. "The ring has chosen an innocent," she murmured, her voice rolling like thunder beneath the water. "An innocence must pay the price for another's greed." Her attendants, spirits of the river, bowed low, waiting for her command. The goddess closed her eyes, listening to the cries of the village, to the weeping of a mother, to the frightened whispers of people who did not understand. "The time is coming," she said. "The child will learn. The village will learn. And Obina, the foolish one, will also face the shadow of what he set loose." Above the surface, Amora shivered in the night air, unaware that the goddess's eyes were now upon her, and that her journey was only beginning. The forest at night was a frightening place, even for grown men. Strange insects hummed in the dark, owls hooted from hidden branches, and unseen animals rustled through the undergrowth. For Amora, who had never wandered so far from home, every sound felt like a spirit chasing her. She hugged herself tightly, whispering her own name as though it could keep her company. Yet no matter how much she whispered, she still felt alone. The ring on her finger glowed faintly, a dull, sinister light pulsing with every beat of her heart. It seemed alive, as though it had its own spirit. Sometimes she thought she heard it whisper too, soft, slithering voices calling around her ears, "Stay unseen, stay hidden, stay ours." She would shake her head violently, covering her ears, but the whispers always returned. Tears streaked her dusty cheeks. She wondered if she would ever laugh again, or run freely in the sunshine, without this cursed shadow chained to her small body. Meanwhile, in the village, Amora's disappearance had become more than just sorrow, it was now a heavy curse. The elders performed sacrifices by firelight, offering goats and yams to any spirit that would listen. Women wailed at crossroads, calling her name into the night. But nothing brought her back. Her mother, weak and hollow-eyed, lay day after day on her mat, refusing food. "I feel her close," she whispered. "She is near, but the spirits hold her from me." The people avoided her hut, afraid that the grief had touched her with madness. But in their own homes, they also feared. Parents warned their children not to wander at dusk, not to pick anything strange from the ground, not to speak carelessly at the river. The word they knew was slipping from them, replaced by a silence thick with dread. Amora survived in the forest by stealing fruits from low branches, sometimes plucking cassava from hidden farms. But she was only a child, hunger gnawed at her bones, and thirst dried her lips. She would creep back near the village at night, slipping into compounds unseen, taking bits of food and leaving coins from her pocket. She thought this would show she meant no harm. Yet each time she did, shouts of terror echoed through the compound, and people ran into the dark, certain that spirits had come to collect debts. With every step she took, the villagers' fear grew, and so did her loneliness. She longed for one person, just one, to hear her, to see her, to reach out and touch her hand. But the ring tightened, pulsing stronger, dragging her further into a world where she belonged to no one. Far away, Obine tossed on his raffia mat, unable to sleep. Ever since that day at the river, his heart had been heavy. He had told no one of his visit to the goddess, no one of the ring he had begged for. But in his dreams, he saw a child wandering through shadows, crying, unseen by all. He woke drenched in sweat, his chest tight with guilt. Deep down, he knew it was his fault. He had gone to the river with greed in his heart, asking for powers that were never his to command. The goddess had given him the ring, but he had lost it carelessly. And now, an innocent bore the burden of his request. He pressed his palms together, whispering a desperate prayer, "Spirits, forgive me. Goddess, forgive me. Return the child. Take me instead." But the night gave no answer. Only the sound of crickets mocked his pleas. As days stretched into weeks, the village reached breaking point. The elders decided that if the river goddess would not return the child, they must chase away the spirit themselves. They prepared charms, burning herbs that smoked with thick white fumes. They tied red cloths around trees, and placed carved figures at crossroads to trap wandering souls. They even called a dibia, a man said to see both the living and the dead. When he arrived, his eyes rolled white, and he shook his rattle until the ground trembled. "The spirit is close," he announced. "It is a child spirit, trapped between worlds. If we do not drive it out, it will bring death to us all." The villagers gasped, crossing themselves, their fear deepening. Hidden at the edge of the gathering, Amora's small body shook. She wanted to run, to scream, to beg them not to drive her away. But when she opened her mouth, only silence spilled out. The ring throbbed harder, as if mocking her. She fell to her knees, sobbing. Somewhere deep below the earth, the goddess smiled, watching the threads of fate tighten like a fisherman's net around both the child and the village. The dibia's voice thundered through the village square, and every heart shook with fear. His eyes were wide, glazed like someone staring beyond the veil of the living. "This is no ordinary spirit," he declared, shaking his rattle so hard that cowries rattled like angry teeth. "It is tied to a power older than your fathers and mothers. A forbidden charm has been awakened." The villagers gasped, murmuring to one another. The mothers held their children close, and the elders exchanged worried looks. Everyone wanted to know what had angered the spirits, but Obina's face was pale, his heart drumming wildly. He kept his head low, terrified that the dibia would call his name, expose his secret, and reveal that he was the one who went to the river goddess. Amora stood nearby, unseen, trembling like a leaf. She could feel the dibia's words pressing on her chest, heavy like stones. For a moment she thought his white eyes had turned directly toward her, though he gave no sign. The dibia lifted his hand for silence. "This child spirit cannot be cast away by smoke or blood alone. It is bound by an object made with the power of the river mother herself. Until that object is found and destroyed, the spirit will wander among you, bringing fear and sorrow." His words sent a ripple of dread through the crowd. People clutched their amulets tighter, some whispering prayers, others cursing under their breath. "What kind of object?" an elder asked. The dibia struck his staff on the ground. "A ring. A ring of shadows and silence. Whoever wears it shall not be seen by the eyes of men." A collective cry erupted. Women covered their mouths. Men glanced around nervously. Children began to wail. The dibia staff hit the ground again. "Find the ring, or your land will never know peace." Invisible tears rolled down Amora's face. She stared at her small hand, at the cursed ring gleaming faintly on her finger. She wanted to scream the truth, to throw it away, to beg them to see her. But each time she tried to pull it off, it burned like fire, clinging to her flesh with a will of its own. She ran from the gathering, her heart pounding. She fled into the bush, away from the voices of her people, away from the accusing words of the dibia. Her small body shook with sobs as she crouched beneath a mango tree. "Please," she whispered to the night. "Please, someone help me." But only the insects answered her, buzzing and humming in the shadows. The ring throbbed as though it laughed at her misery, its glow pulsing stronger than ever. That night, Obine could bear it no longer. He crept to the riverbank, kneeling on the wet sand, his chest heaving. "Great Mother," he whispered into the darkness, "forgive me. I asked for power, but I brought suffering. A child is paying for my greed. Please, take me instead." The river rippled softly, the moonlight dancing on its surface. Slowly, a figure rose from the water, the goddess, her form tall and radiant, her eyes like glowing stars. She looked at him with neither anger nor kindness, only an eternal calm. "You speak of sacrifice now, but where was your wisdom when you begged for shadows to cover your sins?" she asked, her voice like rolling waves. Obine fell on his face, shaking. "I was blind with hunger for power. Now I see. Let the child go free." The goddess tilted her head. "The ring has chosen. The ring does not release. Yet know this, the path of freedom is not closed, but it demands a price heavier than you can imagine." The next morning, the dibia gathered the elders again. "I have seen visions," he said. "The spirit child wanders still. She is trapped, but she is not wicked. If the ring can be broken, she will return. But beware, the one who breaks it may not live to tell the tale." His warning cast a dark cloud over the village. Mothers wept louder, fathers clenched their fists in helplessness, and children huddled close, afraid to breathe. Somewhere in the shadows, Amora listened, her heart torn. She wanted freedom. She wanted to hold her mother's hand again. But the thought of someone dying to save her filled her with dread. She called into herself, whispering, "I don't want anyone to die for me." Yet in her heart, she knew the curse of the ring was a debt that would demand payment, and the goddess was already waiting for her due. Amora's mother, Ngozi, had become a shadow of herself. Her once bright eyes were dull, her voice cracked from endless weeping, and her body wasted from refusing food. Yet her spirit would not rest. Every evening she staggered to the village square, calling her daughter's name into the wind. "Amora. My child. Where are you?" Her voice carried through the huts, breaking hearts wherever it fell. Even the hardest men felt their eyes sting, though they turned away. Invisible by the edge of the square, Amora stood trembling, her tiny fist clenched. She wanted to run to her mother, to hold her waist, to whisper, "Mama, I'm here." But when she reached out, her hands passed through air. She dropped to her knees, wailing, but her cries never reached her mother's ears. The goddess had sealed her in silence. Ngozi looked around, clutching her wrapper. For a heartbeat, her heart quickened, she thought she felt Amora near. But when she called again, only the night replied. The villagers were restless. Some believed Amora's mother was cursed, that her sorrow invited spirits. They whispered behind her back, others pitied her but dared not comfort her, fearing they too would be marked by the unseen. Ngozi bore it all in silence, her strength fed by love and grief. She refused to believe her daughter was gone. "I feel her," she insisted. "She is close. My child is alive." The elders shook their heads, muttering that grief had broken her mind. But in truth, her words carried more weight than they knew, for Amora indeed wandered among them, unseen, her heart bleeding each time her mother's cries tore through the night. One evening, as the moon climbed high, Amora lingered near her mother's hut. She found her mother kneeling on the earth, her forehead pressed to the ground. "Spirits of the land, spirits of the sky, return my child to me," Ngozi prayed, her voice trembling. Amora knelt beside her, copying her posture, pressing her forehead to the same earth. "I am here, Mama," she whispered. But her words were swallowed by the curse. Her tears soaked the soil. She touched her mother's wrapper, and for the briefest moment, Ngozi shivered, as if a cold wind had brushed her skin. She looked around, heart racing, then whispered, "Amora." Amora froze, her invisible breath catching. But just as quickly, the moment passed. Ngozi's eyes dulled again, and she sank back into her prayer. Amora cried silently, clutching the cursed ring that refused to release her. That same night, Obinna could no longer carry his guilt in silence. He came to Ngozi's hut, kneeling at her door. "Sister," he said softly, "forgive me. I know more than I have spoken." Ngozi looked up, her eyes sunken, her body trembling. "What do you know of my child?" she demanded. Obinna's throat tightened, but the words poured out like water breaking through a dam. He confessed everything, how he had gone to the river goddess, how he had begged for power, how she had given him the ring, and how he had lost it. "The child must have found it," he said, voice breaking. "The Dibia speaks true, it is the ring that holds her spirit away." Ngozi's scream pierced the night, so raw that even the birds fled from the trees. "You," she cried, striking his chest with her fist. "Your greed has stolen my child." Obinna wept, bowing his head to the earth. "Then let me be the one to make it right," he said. From the shadows, Amora heard everything. Her small body shook with fear and anger. She had always known Obinna as her neighbor, the man who laughed loudly and carried firewood on his shoulders. She never imagined he could be the reason for her suffering. Rage boiled in her chest, but so did sorrow, for she saw his tears and his trembling hands. She wanted to hate him, yet a part of her understood his weakness. She reached out, trying again to tear the ring from her finger, but it burned, sealing itself tighter. She screamed into the night, though no one heard. The goddess's laughter rippled faintly through the wind, mocking them all. In her watery palace, she whispered, "The price is close. The end will come soon." And in the village, the cries of a mother and the guilt of a man mingled with the unseen sobs of a child, binding their fates together in a knot no blade could easily cut. The morning sun rose heavy, casting long shadows over the village. Obinna had not slept since confessing his sin. His mind replayed the goddess's words at the river, "The path of freedom is not closed, but it demands a price heavier than you can imagine." He knew what that meant, someone had to give their life for the ring to break. He walked through the village with weary steps, feeling every pair of eyes burn into his back. The people now knew him as the cause of their suffering. Mothers pulled their children away from him, fathers spat on the ground as he passed. Still, he carried the weight without complaint, whispering to himself, "If my life can bring the child," voice tore through the silence. The goddess's eyes widened, and the ring on Amora's finger blazed with blinding light. The village far behind stirred in alarm as a strange wind swept through the huts. Ngozi awoke with a gasp, clutching her chest, feeling her daughter's cry ripple through her soul. At the river, the waters roared as goddess, man, and child stood caught in a moment that would decide their fates forever. The river roared like thunder, waves crashing against the bank as though the waters themselves were angry. The goddess's eyes blazed, fixing on Amora as her small, trembling body shimmered into sight for the first time since the curse began. Her face was streaked with tears, her lips quivering, but her eyes burned with a desperate strength. "Mama needs me," she cried. "I want to go home." Her voice echoed through the night, carried by the rushing current, and for the first time, Obinna saw her. He gasped, his knees buckling. "Child," he whispered, tears spilling. "Forgive me." Amora turned to him, clutching the cursed ring. "Don't die for me. Please, don't." Her voice cracked, but her words broke through the silence that had bound her for so long. The goddess raised her hand, and the water stilled. Her face softened, though her power still pressed heavy on the air. "The ring was never meant for such innocence," she said. "But it chose you, and once chosen, none escape without sacrifice." Amora shook her head violently, her braids flying. "Then take it back." "I don't want it. I just want my mama." She yanked at the ring, pulling with all her small strength. The metal seared her skin, glowing hotter, binding tighter. Obinna cried out, rushing forward, his hands trembling. "Let me take it," he begged. "Give me the curse, spare her." The goddess's eyes narrowed. "Would you truly bear what she has carried? Would you wear the shadows until they swallow your soul?" Obinna nodded fiercely, his body shaking but his voice steady. "Yes. If it frees her, then yes." The goddess's gaze pierced him, and then she extended her hand. The river surged, wrapping around Obinna like chains. He screamed as the waters burned his skin, but he did not resist. Amora sobbed, reaching for him. "No," she cried. "Please, don't hurt him." But the goddess's voice rolled over them like a storm. "A debt must be paid. Shadows cannot be broken without blood." The ring on Amora's finger glowed brighter, then cracked with a sharp sound. Pain shot through her hand, but she did not let go. "If you must take a life," she shouted through her tears, "take mine. Just let Mama smile again." Her small voice pierced the heavens, and even the goddess paused, her expression unreadable. Obinna's cries faded into silence as the waters lifted higher, binding him in their cold grip. The night split open with light. The ring shattered, bursting into fragments that flew into the sky like sparks. Amora collapsed onto the sand, her chest heaving, her small body trembling with exhaustion. The curse had broken, but the price had not yet been claimed. Obinna lay on his knees in the water, blood trickling from his nose, his breath shallow. The goddess hovered above them, her form towering, her voice low. "The ring is no more. The child is free. But the bargain remains. Who will the river take?" Her eyes shifted between them, innocent child and guilty man, her judgment hanging like an axe. Amora crawled forward, clutching Obinna's hand. "Don't take him," she whispered. "He tried to save me. Please, take no one." The goddess's face softened, but her words were sharp. "The river never leaves without a gift." In the village, Ngozi staggered from her hut, clutching her chest as though strings pulled her heart toward the river. She ran barefoot across the fields, a wrapper dragging through dust, her voice calling desperately. "Amora, my child." Guided by love alone, she reached the riverbank just as the waters glowed with the shattered fragments of the ring. She saw her daughter, visible at last, weak but alive. She screamed with joy and terror, rushing forward to scoop her into her arms. Amora clung to her mother's neck, sobbing. "Mama, I'm here. Don't let them take me." Ngozi wept, kissing her child's hair, her tears falling like rain. The goddess watched silently, her eyes glowing brighter. "The river must take," she repeated, her voice like thunder. Ngozi looked up, her arms wrapped tight around her daughter, and whispered, "Then take me. Not her. Not him. Let me be the gift." The river grew quiet, its roaring waves coming as if the goddess herself leaned in to hear Ngozi's words. The villagers, who had followed Ngozi's cries to the bank, stood frozen at the sight before them, the glowing goddess towering above, Amora clinging to her mother, and Obina kneeling weak and broken in the water. Whispers spread like wind, the spirit child, she is alive, the goddess has come, but none dared move closer. Ngozi raised her chin, her arms still tight around her daughter. Her voice cracked, but her words were steady. Great Mother, take me instead. If you must have a gift, let it be me. I have lived. My daughter has not. Let her laugh, let her play, let her grow. Take me. Her words rang through the night like a bell. The goddess's gaze lingered on her, long and piercing. For a moment, the water trembled as if ready to swallow her whole. Amora screamed, clutching tighter. No, Mama. Don't leave me. Her small fingers dug into Ngozi's wrapper. Obina, gasping, tried to lift his head. No, he whispered. It was my greed. It should be me. The goddess raised her hand, silencing them all. Her eyes glowed brighter than the moon. I see your love. I see your guilt. And I see the child's tears. Each of you offers yourself, but only one truth matters: innocence was never meant to pay for sin. Her voice thundered, shaking the trees, sending ripples across the earth. She turned her gaze on Obina. You brought this curse. The river should take you. Obina bowed his head, tears streaming. Then take me, he whispered. His voice cracked but held no fear now. Let the child live, let her mother smile again. The villagers gasped, some shouting for mercy, others nodding that justice must be done. Amora cried out, breaking free from her mother's arms, and threw herself into the water before Obina. No. Please. Don't take him. He tried to help me. He wanted to save me. Her voice shook the silence, raw and desperate. The goddess looked down at her, her expression unreadable. For the first time, the river mother's stern face softened into something like sorrow. Little one, she murmured, your heart is too pure for this world. Even in chains, you beg for mercy. She closed her glowing eyes. The river does not desire such a gift tonight. With a sweep of her hand, the water that bound Obina loosened and fell away. He collapsed into the shallows, coughing, alive. The goddess lifted her face to the sky, her voice rolling like thunder, and sung together. The ring is broken, the curse is ended, and mercy is given. Let it be known that the river does not always demand blood, but she always remembers the hearts of men. Slowly, her form sank back into the water, her glowing eyes the last to fade. The river returned to its calm flow, carrying only the echoes of her voice. A deep silence fell over the bank, broken only by the sound of Ngozi's sobs as she clutched Amora to her chest. The villagers fell to their knees, bowing their heads to the river, whispering prayers of gratitude and fear. From that day on, Amora was no longer unseen. Her laughter returned to the village, filling the air with joy. Ngozi's tears turned to smiles as she watched her daughter run and play once more. But Obina bore the weight of his guilt like a scar carved into his soul. Though he lived, he was humbled, his greed burned away by shame. He worked tirelessly for the village, helping mothers, mending roofs, carrying burdens, trying to repay what could never be fully repaid. And whenever people passed the riverbank, they remembered the night when goddess and mortal stood face to face, and mercy was given where death had been expected. Elders told the tale for generations, of a ring that granted invisibility, of a child's tears that broke its curse, and of a goddess who chose compassion over blood. And so the legend lived on, reminding all that greed can destroy, but love, even the small love of a child, can move the heart of spirits. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell, so you don't miss any of our life-changing stories.